Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, where every day we explore how technology is transforming our lives and indeed multiple industries all over the world. And we've had some big names on this podcast, such as Adobe, IBM, Lenovo, Microsoft, Sony, and indeed all the usual suspects in tech. But this former IT guy has been trying to tick another name off his tech bingo card. Can you guess who they might be? Yes, sir, you in the blue shirt. Congratulations. It was indeed Citrix. And one of the reasons for that is when people think of Citrix, and especially myself that used to work in IT, they probably automatically think of networking or a software company that provides server, application and desktop virtualization. But in an age of digital experience, like I said, I know from working in IT and at the event industry that many of your experiences are actually being brought to life and you possibly take for granted are all made possible by companies such as Citrix. But to the end user, they possibly never ever see them. So I want everyone listening to take a peek behind the curtain and actually see how Citrix is actually one of tech's unsung heroes. And Jeroen van Rotterdam is the Executive Vice President of Engineering with the responsibility of developing and delivery of Citrix flagship products for development and delivery of Citrix flagship products for secure delivery of apps and data. And most importantly, of course, anytime, anywhere, and on any device or network. No pressure. But harnessing the innovation power of the company's global engineering workforce, he also leads their R&D team across all hardware and software products and solutions for apps, data, cloud, and networking. So he's an incredibly busy guy. And I'm hoping we can bust a few myths today and let everybody see the power of technology and how it is actually bringing experiences to life. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Fort Lauderdale so we can speak with Jeroen van Rotterdam from Citrix. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little more about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thanks, Neil. So I run what I call R&D and D at Citrix, so research and development and deployment. And so this is basically a team of engineers, the entire software engineering team and cloud team within Citrix of roughly 2,500 engineers. And so we're building a variety of products and deploy them and run them as well.
Now, listeners shouldn't need any introduction to Citrix systems at all, but I'm conscious that we're living in a world where some people think that Adobe is just about Photoshop, and I don't want people to walk away from our conversation today thinking that Citrix is just about networking. So can you get everyone up to speed and get them on the same page by maybe setting the scene and tell me a little bit more about the kind of problems that Citrix solves here in 2019?
You know, that's a good question, and there's a lot of perceptions about Citrix, right? So typically, a lot of people actually think it's all about virtualization, but we moved on quite a bit from there, right? So yes, it's still a big chunk of our business, but there are roughly two main product lines within Citrix. You have what we call the Citrix Workspace and Citrix Networking. And Citrix Workspace is all about, providing a secure, productive digital workspace, where Citrix Networking is all about hardware and software solutions for application delivery, load balancing, firewalls, WAN optimization, traffic management, cloud native networking, etc. So all core networking. Those are the two big buckets. And if you look at Citrix Workspace, there's a wide variety of capability for the end user, whether you're using virtualized technology or not.
One of the reasons I invited you on the show today was to talk about your work around the benefits of those digital workspaces that you mentioned a few moments ago. So can you expand about that and also why you're so passionate about it right now?
It's an interesting question. If you look at enterprise systems, right, you could almost say that they're designed to make your life harder. And I think what sort of is changing over the last 5 years or so is that end users start to revolt against hard to use systems. They just don't have the patience anymore to learn complex systems, and typically they only use a fraction of the functionality anyway. And in my opinion, I hear a lot of people saying, well, that's the millennials, and I revolt against that, partly because I'm not a millennial, but I think it has nothing to do with millennials or Gen Zs or whatever, right? It's just the state of that technology. In the old days, right, when you wanted to start your car, right, you used the hand crankshaft, right? And now we're pretty close to something like self-driving cars.
Yeah.
And I think end users will get used to convenience very quickly. And so simple to use apps are now the norm, right? So you're using that in your private life. And we really need to disrupt the enterprise, the way end users consume and use and get productivity out of enterprise apps. That's what the target is of Citrix Workspace.
It's so true in what you're saying there. I mean, Amazon gives us those one-click baskets. You don't even have to think about what movie you want to watch because Netflix knows before you even do. And the similar way that Spotify and Apple Music knows what music you will like too. But nobody knows anything about these complex technologies that make it all possible. But we just want life to be as easy as possible, don't we? And like you say, we're taking that from our homes and into the workplace now.
Yeah, and it's absolutely true. And what I really love is sort of systems that are simple on the front end and do a lot of smartness on the back end. I think this started with the Google one box certs, in my opinion.
Yeah. That
set the stage, right? So think about it. On the back end, it is super complex. They do all the hard work, but the end user just type in a word, right? So that's the beauty of the new generation of applications. And what we're doing is that we're trying to abstract away from that underlying complex enterprise system and offer something very convenient to the end user in a secure way.
And it also seems that every conference I go to, whether it be over there in the US or over here in Europe, everyone's talking about the experience economy, and it's such a hot topic. And once again, technology is delivering these experiences, but people don't necessarily know about the technology behind it. So I was wondering if maybe we could go through a few examples here. For example, can you tell me more about the recent partnership you formed with, I think it was with the Miami Marlins, and their goal to deliver those better entertainment experiences to fans, and the role of technology in that?
Yeah, the Marlins are a good example, right? So they are all about customer experience, right? They're in the entertainment industry anyway, right? So they're primarily focused on the experience of the customer. We're primarily focused on enabling our customers, which is the Marlins in this example, to actually deliver that experience to their customers in a very convenient and secure way. And so that means that the support system, they need to actually enable you to improve that customer experience, right? So, and they got all the aspects of an enterprise, right? So they have peak loads during season, right? So they need elasticity in the back end without bugging the end user or slowing down the end user, right? They have confidential information that they need to share outside of the company in a very easy way. For instance, when they do scouting, right? So that's a very interactive process. And they, like everybody, they want to reduce IT spend and reduce complexity and move from CapEx to OpEx. And so they decided to adopt Citrix Cloud for all their digital workspaces, for all their end users, to really go for that better customer experience, enable them to deliver better customer experience at a lower cost with better security.
And for those business leaders that are listening now and hearing about the Marlins story of how they're transitioning to the Citrix Cloud platform and how it's created a more intuitive environment and a high level of productivity and overall improved flow of information, could you maybe give a few examples of how it's doing that?
Yeah, so it's funny because it's one of those situations where it is better on all fronts, right? Yeah. It is easier and faster to deploy. It's easier to manage. I argue it's more secure than your on-prem environment. It's also more stable. There are good examples where we monitor our cloud and specific customers within those clouds. And we say, hey, we see a degradation of performance happening for this particular customer. And let's drill down into that. And that's at a point in time where the end user hasn't complained yet. We just see a trend. And then we start to impact that production system ahead of time before the end user is impacted. And it's one of those examples where at scale, you have better analytics and better tools to prevent these type of accidents. Customers also get much faster access to the latest innovations at a lower cost, and there are also scarce resources, right? So these days, if you look at IT and security, right? So it's hard to attract talent, and by delivering that in the cloud, you don't have to set that up yourself. So I would say it's fairly disruptive. It's better on all fronts, I would say.
Fantastic. And if we were to zoom right out now, and if we've got any Marlins fans listening, how would you say Citrix has helped to enhance that experience at Marlins Park for both the people working there, the employees, and the customers coming into the park?
Yeah, there's a direct impact of customers coming into the park, right? So it's all about the Marlin experience. If you offer a better customer service, you can dramatically improve the customer experience. That's their target.
And looking to the future, what is it that excites you about this mission that you're on there with Citrix? And also, what are the key messages that you would want anybody listening, whether it be a business leader or a user, what would you want them to walk away with today?
Yeah, it's we've got Synergy coming up, our yearly conference in May. We did a fairly interesting acquisition, the software acquisition in Q4 last year. And the reason for that acquisition is that it enables us to give a dramatic different experience for end users. That simplification of the end user experience, while there are complex existing enterprise systems in the backend, dramatically improves productivity for end users. And it improves security. It's like this seesaw, right? So typically what you see is when IT is boosting up security, productivity or usability goes down. With our current developments, we bring both up. In fact, it's a continuum. So when you improve security, you get even better productivity. And so we're flipping the model. And we're doing that by abstracting away from the applications. It's a typical situation, right? So you use a fraction of the app. It is very hard. We are puppy trained to go in an application first, try to find some functionality and do something. And we take the reverse approach. We say, what is the goal of the end user? What is he trying to achieve? And how do we give them a user interface that is very intuitive, easy, and fast at a lower cost and secure? And we're doing that while we're using that existing hard-to-use enterprise application in the backend. So we're completely hiding that or abstracting away from that complex application for the end user.
I do suspect that there are going to be a lot of people listening to our conversation today all over the world, and they may be left with a few questions as well. So can you remind them of where they can find you guys online, stay up to speed with your technological developments, and also contact a member of your team if they're just left with any questions they'd like to reach out and ask you guys?
Yeah, you can shoot me an email. So that's Jeroen van Rotterdam at citrix.com, or find my LinkedIn profile and connect. There are not too many people with my name, I would say, so very easy to find. And just send me a message through LinkedIn, and I'll respond to that or connect you with the right people.
Fantastic. Well, I cannot thank you enough for coming on today. And I must admit, I want to walk around with my tech head and visit Marlins Park just to see how you guys have helped enhance the experience there. So it sounds like a perfect excuse for a trip to the US for me. But more than anything, just a big thank you for coming on and busting a few myths and sharing your story today. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Neil.
I couldn't tell you how great it was getting Jeroen on the podcast today. And I think we did bust a few myths about Citrix, and just by showcasing some of the great work that they're doing and discussing the benefits of digital workspaces, especially as a proof of point for how they spur productivity, but how, as a company, they're much more than just networking and virtualization, And I think it's so important to get that message out there. And like I said, I really enjoyed hearing about the Miami Marlins partnership and how they use technology as an enabler to deliver a better entertainment experience to their fans. But to do so, the Marlins had to transition to the Citrix Cloud platform to create a more intuitive environment. And again, a high level of productivity and overall improved flow of information. And that is a lot of the unsexy work that goes on behind the scenes that makes everything possible. But I don't want to sound like the boring IT guy. So if you're a business leader, an IT worker, or a Miami Marlins fan, I want to pass this virtual microphone over to you and ask you to share your insights. And of course, anything that you took away from today's conversation. And I'm the easiest guy in the world to find online. You can go by my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. You can email me directly. I am an open book here, techblogwriter@outlook.com. And if social's more your thing, you can get me on Twitter and Instagram @NeilCHughes and linkedin.com/Neil C. Hughes too. So I cannot thank Jeroen enough for coming on the show today to actually spend a little time with me and also offer an opportunity to see Citrix in a different light. And then, of course, there are you wonderful listeners that turn up every day just to hear me share a different story in 165 different countries. And I'm so grateful for that. And thankfully, I do have 50, yes, an incredible 50 podcast interviews already booked in to take us till mid-June. So I think it's fair to say that we've created somewhat of a monster here. Or maybe it's just proof that technology does work best when it brings people together. So keep your messages coming in. This is your show too, and I'll return tomorrow with another great guest. So thanks for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.